What's up, smarty people? It's KeysDAN with RadioWhat.com, DJLittleRock.com, coming to you live and in living color from the Radio What studios. And this is my podcast, What Makes You Smarter? It's an extension of the RadioWhat.com internet radio station that I've been running for quite some time. And if you need DJ services, where do I always send you? DJLittleRock.com. Check availability and get a free price quote, and maybe you could have me at your next event. You know I like to party with the people. The people need to be entertained. Are you not entertained? Let me entertain you. Also, if you'd like to tell your story or hear the stories of others, I encourage you to check out my other podcast. It's called What Makes You Famous. Find it everywhere using the hashtag What Makes You Famous. Now, on with the show. Today on the program, interesting facts. I think they're interesting facts. Maybe you will too. Stick around. 7 body parts that are more or less useless. Yeah, why do I have these things in my body if I don't need them? The human body contains around 600 muscles, more than 200 bones, and all sorts of tendons, fascia, and organs. But some of them are pretty much obsolete, even if they make for decent party tricks. A few body parts have even started to disappear already and are only present in certain segments of the population. In extreme cases, as people have had appendectomies or wisdom tooth extractions can attest, it seems like some of these body parts exist only to hurt us. Are you missing a mostly useless arm muscle? What muscles are key for dogs but not particularly handy for us? These 7 body parts are pretty much just along for the ride. Number 1, the appendix, of course. The appendix, a small pouch attached to the large intestine, is perhaps the best known useless organ, doing little except occasionally getting infected. However, it turns out that it might not be entirely useless. Scientific theories have been floating around since 2007 that the appendix might actually serve as a safe house for beneficial gut bacteria, storing it to replenish it in the rest of the gut if it gets wiped out by illness or, in modern times, antibiotics. If this turns out to be accurate, it's still not a particularly important organ, and if it gets severely infected, you still need to get it removed. Don't worry. Hundreds of thousands of people get them taken out every year and are doing just fine. Number 2, the tailbone, the coccyx, COCCYX. Humans don't need tails, but our ancestors sure did. And tailbones are also known as coccyxes, are the last remaining part of them. Consisting of 3 to 5 vertebrae that aren't connected to the spine, the coccyx is not a functional tail, but it is woven in with the ligaments, tendons, and muscles in the area. Occasionally, it gets rid of itself by fusing with the sacrum, another lower backbone. In cases of extreme pain that don't resolve with any other treatment, people can get their coccyxes surgically removed. But it's unnecessary in the vast majority of cases. Occasionally, a baby will be born with an actual tail, and human embryos generally form with a tail that later disappears as it grows into the tailbone. But it's extremely rare. Making me think of Shallow Hal when Jason Alexander's character it revealed that he had a little tail, little wiggly tail. Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. Number 3. Wisdom teeth. Wisdom teeth, a third set of molars, have made dental surgery a rite of passage. For those who get them, many people don't. They usually start emerging between the ages of 17 and 21. Often there's no room in the jaw and the teeth end up trapped. When that happens, they need to be surgically extracted. Occasionally they grow in without incident and just become extra teeth. It's a lot of trouble for a set of teeth that we don't even need. The one theory is that our ancestors who ate harder to chew things and didn't have dentists needed them as backup teeth. Modern science has gotten pretty good at just replacing teeth as they fall out, but wisdom teeth could still replace damaged molars in a pinch. I still got my wisdom teeth. I let them grow in. And boy, it sure was painful. I chewed gum all the way through it, and I just worked right through it. Oh my goodness! Probably should have had them removed. I think it pushed my teeth out of whack. If you're watching the video, yeah, you could probably attest to that. Number 4, external ear orienting system. If you have a pet dog or cat, you probably notice that the ear snapping to attention at an interesting or startling noise. Humans still have those muscles and likely the brain circuits associated with them. In one study, researchers observed tiny involuntary movements in the directions of interesting sounds. For one part of the study, they had participants read a boring text while they played attention-grabbing sounds like crying babies and footsteps. Next, they had participants try to listen to a podcast while a second podcast was being played in the background. Those ear muscles fired up in both cases. They're just obsolete for modern human beings. Some humans can still wiggle their ears, which does serve one purpose. It's a cool party trick. I can wiggle my ears a little bit, but not a lot. Not so much to where it's fascinating. Number 5, goosebump muscles. Ooh, goosebumps. Human ancestors were much furrier than us and sometimes needed to fluff up their hair for warmth or look bigger and more fearsome. And they had tiny muscles attached to their hair follicles called erector pili. ARRECTORPILI muscles that would shift each hair up to a vertical position. Today, our much more hairless state, those muscles give us goosebumps, also known as goose pimples, when we get chilly, scared, or excited. Some emerging research suggests these muscles may have a role in combating hair loss, and without them, we wouldn't have a name for the iconic children's horror series, Goosebumps. But as far as basic survival goes, the erectors pilorum are pretty much useless. Number 6, third eyelid. Most animals have a third eyelid called the nictitating membrane, which serves as a kind of windshield wiper that distributes tears and clears debris from the eye. That trait evolved out of human beings and some apes, but we still have a tiny vestigial remnant of the inner corners of our eyes. It's a bit of eye tissue that just inside the fleshy pink eye bump is exceedingly rare. In exceedingly rare cases, only 2 have ever been reported. Humans can have a more developed nictitating membrane that covers a larger portion of the eye. So why did we lose ours? One theory is that unlike animals that still have them, we're not typically sticking our faces directly into bushes or other animals to forage for food. So we have less debris to push out of our eyes. And finally, number 7, palmaris, let me read this correctly, palmaris longus muscle. The palmaris longus is a muscle stretching the length of our forearm, evolving away before our very eyes, literally, because it's visible when you hold your hand and wrist in a certain way. You can actually tell whether you still have yours. On sight, it's already missing in a significant portion of the population, and different studies around the world have observed its disappearance in anywhere between 15 and 63.9% of participants. What's a 0.9% participant? That's almost a person. The muscle helps with wrist flexion in those who still have it, but it's getting progressively weaker as other muscles take over its duties. If you don't have one, you could still do all the same things as someone who does have it. While it's unnecessary as is, the palmaris longus is pretty useful as a donor tendon for plastic surgery. Wow, pretty interesting facts. That's 7 body parts that are more or less useless. Do you have any facts? Drop me some comments. Like, share, subscribe. Hang out here for more. This has been What Makes You Smarter. If you want to tell your story or hear the stories of others, I encourage you to check out my other podcast. It's called What Makes You Famous. Find it everywhere using the hashtag What Makes You Famous. That's it for me. It's KeysDAN, RadioWhat.com, DJLittleRock.com. Peace.